Well, we're live. Good morning, everybody.
Hello! Don't mind me. I'm just taking some last-minute notes on the book.
All right, you ready? Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason.
I'm Nicole.
And today is our last discussion for Here One Moment by Liane Moriarty. I was just reading it. I don't know why I can't remember. That's sad. Here One Moment, Gone the Next. Nope, that's not it. You can take it.
If this is your very first time joining us, go ahead and stop this little old video. Go and read the book. You can catch the first half of the book discussion in the playlist for Here One Moment. And then you can catch up and watch this one as well after you finish the book. We don't want to spoil anything for you, but there will be spoilers in about 25 seconds. So, get out. If you are catching us live, please chat us up in the chat. And if you are catching us on the replay, chat us up in the discussion box. We love to hear what you thought about the book and the things that stood out to you. And we love reliving these books. It's a lot of fun. There's only about 2 books that we've read that we don't want to relive. But we're happy to read your comments still. We are on YouTube Music as a podcast. And we're on little old Instagram for the memes. We've been a bit quiet on Instagram lately. Just not been on social media as much lately, but, you know, these things come in phases. We have tons of other books playlisted for you in the playlist section of our channel. This is our 120th episode.
Yeah, real episode.
Yeah.
Real discussion. Not
and
counting
most
all the
of
other
our
nonsense.
books are split into 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So we've got lots of books in there that we've read. So right now the chat is talking about West with Giraffes, which is one of our books that seems to be like a real favorite amongst the viewers of YouTube. So good. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't read that one, go read that one.
Yeah. So
good. But meanwhile, Here One Moment. What'd you think?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I have often said, and I said last week, that I enjoy books that are just like about life, and that's what this was. There was no, in the end, there's
nothing special.
There's nothing special here, and it's but you get to go for a journey through everybody's life, and I think honestly, the person's life that I was most interested in by the end was Cherry's, because her life is the one that doesn't matter, like her for the purposes of these prophecies that she's given and all that, her life just doesn't matter. You want to know everybody else's. You get everybody else's from the time they're on the plane to the end, right?
Yeah.
Like you get that bit, but for her you get the whole thing. And what you're interested in is these people that well, what if they die, and what's going on here. It doesn't matter about her childhood. It doesn't matter about her teenage years or whatever, but that's the best part.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I like about it, is that she's just telling you, and we still don't know who she's telling. Nobody, by the end of the book, nobody really, some people appreciate her, some people don't, but it doesn't matter. So she's just telling you this story. It's like talking to the old lady next door, and she's just here's about my life or whatever. And I think that's really cool. I really enjoy that.
She just had this terrible traumatic moment that made her behave in a very peculiar way.
Yeah.
And it did have very real effects on people. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that's kind of fun about this book to explore, is the way we can be truly affected by things that aren't real.
Yeah.
That was something fun that we talked about when I taught philosophy, and we would watch the episode Tuttle from MASH, where they're all so impacted by this army sergeant or whatever who doesn't even exist. He was made up by Hawkeye. All this was made up, but it made people at some point who were affected by these, prophecies think about what they were doing or how they were doing it or whatever. And it did change something for each of them.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite of the couples by the end of it? Or favorite of the people, the affected folks? Not necessarily couples.
I don't know. I think Leo was kind of a sad character for me, and I was just come on, man, grow up. But by the end, I really enjoyed Leo. I guess I appreciate his wife more than anybody else, right? She pushed him to take this real gamble, a real gamble. And I kind of enjoy where he almost like got crushed by the digger machine or whatever. I thought that was funny. But and that his, like, it turns out, you know, the chat's talking about, but like it turns out that like he was like 1 degree away from Cherry this entire time. Like his mom is her best friend or whatever. But you know, his life really changed.
Yeah.
A lot more than some of the other people's did. You know, like Ethan ends up getting this girlfriend or whatever, and like goes on with his little life, and like that's cool. But
he had such a funny little escape from his destiny.
I really thought Carter was gonna kill him.
That guy's nuts.
Yeah.
He was really pissing me off.
So one of my other favorite stories was also Ethan, but not because of Ethan. But because of Carter. And what's interesting to me about Carter is that he starts telling him all about Stoicism, which is important to me. I really enjoy Stoicism, and it's been an important part of my life, and like sort of like making up my concept of who I am. And Carter does this too, but he does it like in a terrible way, because like if you were really practicing Stoicism, you probably wouldn't try to like murder people,
right?
And you wouldn't
be banging down the door,
banging down doors and stuff. But the
you
point
owe me this.
But the point being is that this is actually it's interesting that we read it this week, because there has been a lot of talk on YouTube specifically about what is called broicism. And it's just Stoicism for bros, and it's a lot of these people who are, you know, into the like, well, I don't care about anything, which is like not really a part of Stoicism at all. And then they use it and they're using it as a tool to like gain status and wealth and things like that. And the whole point of Stoicism is like you have to give that up if you also want to be happy. And so then you end up with neither. Anyway, Carter is practicing broicism, and it was just very interesting to me to like see that live out in a book while there's all this discussion about it this week as well.
Peggy says no one's life matters unless you decide it does.
Right. And I think that's what's cool about it,
Yeah.
right? Because like you're right. No one's life matters unless you decide it does. And so we are told this story and we become invested in just like
These
some very
regular old people.
just regular old people. And then you realize like, oh, but like that is the, you know, so we have a neighbor who died recently, who was just the coolest man ever. That dude was so cool. And he reminds me of Cherry's husband. What's the guy's name?
The last husband.
The last husband.
Yeah.
But like the way she talks about him reminds me so much of our neighbor. And he was somebody where like when he'd just start telling you stuff, you just like listened, and he's just some guy who lived next door. That's it. But and I think about like how many of our neighbors like missed that part. How many people like don't know how cool he was, you know? Because they never took the time to become invested in just like this other person's story. And yeah, and that's what's cool about it. Yeah, Ned.
Yeah. I love that. I loved learning about, oh gosh, what's her name? Allegra's family.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And, you know, I hated that she was dating the pilot because the pilot was a butt, like out in the real world. But then you kind of learn that he acts stupid because he's nervous in front of her. It doesn't fix that, but maybe he'll fix that. Like he'll grow and develop there. But then, you know, her whole situation here turns into the potential for her to become a pilot.
Right.
And checking in with her brother.
There's kind of that twist at the end.
Who had been just kind of
yeah.
skimming along there. Maybe no one realizing that he might have been the one that needed someone to check on him every once in a while. And I thought that was really beautiful that in her moment, she was so wrapped up trying to make sure that she wasn't falling into depression and a risk, that she looked at her brother and kind of took a double take and was like, wait a minute, but how are you doing?
Well, how often are we focused on what's supposed to be and we let all these other things slip
by? Yeah,
that was good. And you know, and the whole like her back pain comes back because she posted a photo of like the death hole, and then somebody tries to save her life. You know, I mean, like
she trips over
oh my
a
god,
dog.
oh my god.
And what a great friend though that boy came running.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
This book really did have me chuckling.
A lot of the twist. I mean, like books. It's very difficult for books to keep me at the edge of my seat. But there were like everybody's story had like, oh, this is it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Anders, the guy that came and saved us.
Yeah,
So
and
funny.
Allegra was the flight attendant on the flight where Ned died, and like Cherry had predicted that Ned and
Anders
her two friends.
was.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Ned. Yeah, sorry, Anders.
Yeah,
No, Allegra was.
Anders.
Oh, Anders was. Okay, I gotcha. Yes. And that's why he was familiar. But I mean, like how all these things kind of tied together was really interesting. And like I don't know how big Tasmania is, and so maybe there's not a whole lot of people down there, but
it seemed very tiny.
yeah. And so like obviously if you're on like a flight from Tasmania, like you're gonna know some people or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I don't. There might be 3 towns for all I know, but I thought that was cool. It's like that here. No matter where in the world you go, you're gonna find each other.
Yep. Just run into everybody. I went to the dark place while Cherry was describing her marriage to the heart doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like that whole... I loved her mother-in-law, but like her whole situation there was just... I was dying inside. The light was dwindling.
Yeah. Well, it was sad. I mean, like, and she was just like marching on because, and like, and that part where she says like, I realized my drinking was a problem, but it never occurred to me to stop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's sort of just like a little microcosm of the entire problem. You know, like I realized it was a problem. It never occurred to me to stop. You know.
Yeah.
And then whenever she goes back to Tasmania and he calls and he's like, "When are you coming home?" And she was like, "What?" Yeah. Yeah. But like, how many people are like that? You know, like, and what she said. I realized that I was married to him and he didn't even like me.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That... I felt that.
Yeah.
I felt that. I mean, I think we're still there. Mine's just messed up.
Yeah, we're still there.
Okay. How weird.
Let's hit this.
Anyway, I'm happy for the little boy that didn't drown.
Yeah, he became like a little
Olympian swimmer.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
And it was amazing. Okay, so, you know, we're so fast to believe something that has absolutely no basis in reality before checking in with all the things that we do know to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I'm going to believe this random person who says my son's going to die of drowning before believing that maybe it's time for me to check back in with my doctor on my obsessive compulsive disorder.
I really loved that reveal. Right, it came so late in the book, and for you to find because there was early on the mention of her like holding the knife to her family's throat, and everybody was laughing. I don't know if you remember that, but like real early on they said that, and you're like, "What is this?"
Oh,
and then they never go back.
I forgot about that.
That is a crazy exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is a thing. You can do it. Don't do that one. That guy should have his license taken away. But I loved when they just sort of like brought that part up and they really explained her whole history of it and you're like, oh no, okay. And then she kind of works through all that. I'll tell you the one couple I didn't really care about was Eve and her husband.
Yeah.
They just, I don't know. I'm glad he didn't kill her. That's great. But like they seem to be set for some struggles still. Like I like so many people in this book end up, all of the characters that didn't die have a happy ending, and I don't really feel like theirs is. It's just an ending.
Well, there's a beginning, you know, they're still so young.
Yeah. But I kind of like that it wasn't just like a happily ever after thing for them. Like I kind of want an ending where somebody was just like, oh, okay, well, like this is still rough, you know, because I think that's the point of the book, right? Like,
right.
You know,
these phases of our lives. Yeah. It's the title. They are here, you know, for a moment, and then move on to the next.
Yeah,
thing.
Shelby says it ended the weakest, and I think I agree. Like it wasn't. I'm not saying that it's like doomed. It just wasn't. It wasn't Leo's, and it wasn't like Allegra's. You know.
Right. Well, they are still wee babies. They
Sure.
moved in together and got all started, and then realized they had nothing to actually sustain themselves on. Dom doesn't know how to run a business and is letting people not pay him.
Right.
And they don't actually make enough to cover their bills. And so they're going to move in with his parents. And get back on their feet. And so it's just that, like, that lesson of, like, the things that you see online aren't real. Social media is not real. No one can afford, you know, to be doing these things when they're 20. Yeah. You're supposed to be poor for a while, you know? We're not living like Jasmine out here.
Yeah. I also liked Sue's story
where Sue and her husband.
She didn't have cancer. She just had like a tummy ache.
And she's like, "This is it.
Yeah,
I'm really sick now."
I thought that was funny.
Oh, poor Sue. I love though that the change that happened there was him. He was like, "What's the one thing I'm going to regret doing?" And she's like, "God, I didn't even really like mean that when I said it, but yeah, let's do it." And we had a blast. Yeah, everyone there loved us. Yep. Sue's so cute.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, all things considered, I'm definitely gonna, I'm gonna recommend this book to people because, number one, it's an easy read. It's something that I think you can appreciate no matter who you are. I think the way that Cherry speaks is very relatable, and so it makes it kind of like a fun book to go along with. And like it's like too dark for a beach read, but like, like, are you just chilling? Do you need something to read that, like, and because it's so segmented, you don't like have to. You kind of have to like pick back up on 7 different stories repeatedly, and so you just kind of get in that habit of it. And if you put it down for like a week, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah, I just found it hilarious and so fitting when we learned that Cherry was an actuary.
Yeah. An actor?
I was dying, and the fact that Allegra's mom was like,
probably an actuary.
That phrasing. She work in insurance. Yeah. It was just so funny. But what a data job for her. Like, she's just a little lady who loves her maths. Yep. And found a husband who also loved maths. Yep. I love that her mom's predictions came true. She did find a girl whose name started with B at just the right time.
Daughter, right?
Yes, yeah. The actuary jokes. That was very funny. Yeah. And he left all those notebooks, the one good things, and what a beautiful thing for her to have from him to hold on to and read. That was pretty awesome. I thought it was funny that we had like a red herring. We had a faker. The YouTuber. That's hilarious and so realistic. I do still I'm like disrupted when there's new technology in books. Like anytime that mentions social media or YouTube, I was like, ugh. Yeah. Not supposed to be in my books. Yeah. But I thought that was a good little addition there. Yeah. Oh, there was something else I was going to say that I thought was funny. I don't remember. Anyway. It was
good.
It was good. Is this an airplane read? I don't know. Considering how nervous it made you, Shelby, when you were reading it last week because of how many plane rides you take, probably not.
Yeah.
But it was thoughtful. Like along the same vein of the Midnight Library. Just, how do you look inward towards your own life? How do you make sure, that you are doing the things that you really want to be doing and you're talking to the people that you're really wanting to be talking to, like with Leo's situation and, we're not guaranteed anything. And,
we also, I really enjoyed when Cherry became
Don't you call her
I know. I really enjoyed when that was tragic when they were like, "Oh, by the way, that's not your little Korean daughter." That's somebody else. That's really bad.
But I'm glad because she needed to get out of that marriage.
Yeah. But when Cherry is her mom's last reading, I think her mom was a real psychic. Like, I think we're supposed to believe that.
I think so too.
And she was like, "Are you going to tell me I need to leave?" But like, yeah, I am. Right? Like, so.
Yeah.
And somebody mentioned Aunt Pat. Like, she was a great character.
Aunt Pat was awesome.
Yeah, she was really great.
I hate that they kind of drifted apart, though.
Yeah.
but it's just Aunt Pat got all used up taking care of her sister.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's real life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cherry was a big old nerd. In a wonderful way.
Mm-hmm.
I was super worried about Dom and Eve. I was worried that he was so wrapped up about it that he was going to hurt her on accident, trying to not hurt her. You know, it was so... They're just ridiculous. But it just makes me laugh because, like, young married people are just ridiculous. You know, they're just doing their best. And it just ain't much sometimes. So cute. I got really frustrated with the young mother who ended up with the cancer diagnosis and was not going to go through any invasive treatment because she was going to die anyway. Like, just leaned all the way into the prediction.
Yeah.
I was so frustrated. That really sent me to the dark place too, but it all turned out okay.
Peggy, you bring up a good point I hadn't thought of. You know, Cherry says that Cherry's mom says that Cherry has already met the love of her life. She does mean Ned. You're led to believe that she means Jack, but she means Ned, and it's because she had already met Ned in
school.
In school, yeah, that's interesting.
The lecture about that math sequence, he had asked for a pen, and she didn't even look at him.
Right.
But she handed it to him, and he remembered her and fell in love with her in that moment.
Yep. Okay. Shelby's saying that she enjoys that Cherry's character was a great wife and partner, but not a mother, because those are different things, and it's okay to be one and not the other. Yeah, that's a good point. And so much of Cherry's views on that are taken from that, like, one woman that she, like, was kind of into for, like, one night or whatever, you know?
Leaned over and whispered,
like, you
it's
can be
okay to not have kids. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. Oh, that was good. Yeah, and, you know, she still had a full life. She still held meaning in other people's lives. You know, like, she is living a whole full life. I liked seeing how Cherry pulled herself back up, you know, after her best friends died and her husband died. And she's like, okay, I need a schedule. I need to have people on days of the week. And, you know, like, I've got to regiment myself and get back out in the world. And I thought that was pretty powerful, because that's the hardest part, I think, you know.
Yeah.
When you lose everyone, how do you get moving again?
Well, I mean, because you're just used to doing the same thing. Like she said, she bought the pistachios or whatever.
Oh, I wanted to punch that little cashier in the face. Yeah. Right in the nose. You don't want this either? Girl, have some... Just say, okay, no problem, I'll put these back. Kindness is not hard. Bought her little pistachio and her little biscuits. Yeah, how do you cope in a world that's unpredictable? You build a set of skills, right? Yeah. Like, the one trick doesn't do every disaster, you know?
Well, like, it's kind of, like, I kind of want to know more, like, a year or two after all this, you know, resolves, the people that have been, like, hung up on this forever, right? Like, at least they had a plan, right? They knew what was going to happen. And so then they're focused on that. And then now they're back to, like, everybody else's life where, like, you have no idea. Yeah, like, and, like, how jarring and weird must that be, you know, to, like, all of a sudden realize, like, oh, but I mean, like, we have, like, you know, like, we all have these, like, career plans, and we have, you know, all these different things, and then sometimes they don't happen, and like, that is
it is very jarring.
People have this PTSD in this book from knowing what's going to happen, but, like, you could also have PTSD from not knowing what's going to happen once you start figuring all that out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the gym.
What was that?
So she kept trying to cancel Ned's gym membership.
Yeah. She took
and it was
there.
Calling the like national organization or the call center. So she takes his ashes up there and is like, here he is in person, cancel the membership, and they all start crying. They're like, Ned!
So that was the part that reminded me of our neighbor.
Yeah.
That was the part. And
Golly.
Yeah.
I felt so bad.
Yeah.
I love that after all the trauma, Cherry's like, I picked up knitting. Why did I think I would be a whole new person after they died? She was like, I still don't like the same things I didn't like before.
Yeah.
Oh, poor thing. The gym. I was just dying. There was just so many little pieces, and you're following so many people, and I got worried if we like left some people alone for too long. I'm like, okay, this is interesting, but like I'm kind of worried about what's happening over here. And I really was able to keep up with everyone pretty well. I couldn't tell you anyone's name, but
yeah, I can generally do the names. There was a couple people. There was one death where they were like, "Oh," and then this happened. I'm like, "Who are you talking about?" But I think it was the YouTuber.
Oh yeah, he wasn't real.
Yeah.
Eek. People who think they have forever will do stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, the 6-year-old.
Yeah, that part was funny.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Definitely a base jumper. I love how the husband was like, all 6-year-olds do stupid stuff. Like, it's fine.
But he was like specifically the kid was referencing.
I'm gonna live to 94. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what's crazy is that like that's self-reinforcing until the point where you die, and then you are unaware that like you were wrong.
You didn't know you learned a lesson.
Which is fine. Like whatever. Now you're dead, so who cares? But like, I mean, like he doesn't care.
He didn't. Mm-mm-mm.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a good one.
About all I got.
It is time for me to announce the next book. I have not chosen it, I'll be honest. I was very sick this week, so I took no time to do anything. But I think that I'm going to pick on purpose, or I'm going to modify the hat, because I think I want to go back to a fantasy. Because the last fantasy we read was Onyx Storm, and before that was Tress of the Emerald Sea, which was ages ago. Fantasy is something that I feel like is underrepresented for us, and so we've done a lot of like death reality things lately, and then we've done some sci-fis, so let's leave the world again for a little bit. But,
yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. It's also Easter. Happy Easter to everybody.
Oh yeah. Happy Easter, everybody.
So that's cool. And then as a general reminder, once we put out the syllabus and announce this next book, we are not meeting next Sunday, so we'll have 2 weeks. We're not sure how we're going to break up the book, but we'll have 2 weeks until our first discussion at least, and so we have plenty of time to catch up. Oh yeah, Tress was fantastic. I still recommend it. Yeah, definitely.
It's a good one.
I'm probably, if we do a hat, I'm probably going to put some Brandon Sanderson like 1-offs or 2-offs in there and just see what happens. All right, fair enough. Yeah, Night Circus was fire.
Gosh.
Hey, look, it's Sue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of Tress, I don't think I ever told you this, again, because it's stupid. So we have like a in-garden compost bin, and it's really like a worm farm, so the worms can go in and out and whatever. I just named all the worms Dougs.
You're so funny.
I thought that was really cute.
That is cute.
I'm gonna go feed the Dougs.
That's very funny. We should do that for next Halloween. We should just be Dougs.
Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, you're Johnny Depp."
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of a shame because Johnny Depp like is a Doug, right? Like no matter what movie he's in, he's just the same guy. Yeah. Oh well, that's fine. Sorry.
Oh, good, Peggy. Yeah, what did you learn from this book? What lesson are you taking out of here?
Who asked that?
I'm asking that.
Oh. I'm gonna say that I've learned that. I'm gonna say that I've like relearned that I think everybody's interesting, and like if everybody is interesting if you are interested, and if somebody is. And if somebody, you're just like, oh, that person's just not interesting. You just haven't asked the right questions yet.
Right.
And like, why am I interesting? I'm not. I'm just as interesting as anybody else. Maybe slightly more, but like, not that much. you know.
I'm not.
And also I would say that like you don't need to wait for some special message to like start doing things differently.
Yeah.
You know, whether that be risk mitigation, which is what a lot of these people chose to do, which is fine, or just to like take that step and get out of that like toxic work environment or whatever.
Reach back out to that friend.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Cherry was not interesting when she was with the heart doctor.
Mm-hmm.
She was not in her realm. She was being hindered and squashed. Like she just was not with someone who like allowed her to flourish and be who she wanted to be. And once she got out of that, she found a place to put her energies, and she found a great career that she loved, and she found the man that she, she bloomed because she was in the right space for herself. And sometimes we just don't see people in the correct light.
Mm-hmm.
We see them just at work, or we see them just, across the street. We see this one little part of them and not the whole thing. We do treat them all as dogs, and we're really not all dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really enjoyed what the part of the book that explored, like how, like the psychology of things. That like we think, well, if you've experienced one trauma, well, odds are you're not going to have another one. You've been through enough, right? No, that's not
the pattern.
True.
The pattern seeking,
right? Like this is all just kind of random, and we're all just handed this mixed bag, and we just have to deal with what we get. And just because you had one crisis doesn't mean that you're not going to have another one right after that. Yeah.
Well, and I think you mentioned last week that I'm very bad about being like, I knew that was going to happen in a book, but like, I don't know, man. I just say that about everything.
Yeah.
And how many people feel like that as like a sense of control, like, oh well, I knew, right, or whatever,
Right.
Because I mean, like, I don't know. This is how many people, like, if you really think about just like all the chaotic possibilities that could absolutely happen to you, and how the most dangerous thing you do every day is just like leave your house, and then like and all this stuff, and just how crippling that could and should be. And so like people like kind of feeling like they know what's happening and what's going on, and we have to feel that way. I think they gave that a name in the book at some point. Or maybe it was in something else that I watched yesterday. I don't remember. There's like some sort of fallacy or something that they mention.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a lesson in here of, not to let yourself just be tossed around by the world. Like, you can't control for everything, but you do get to choose what you want to do.
Right. Well, I think, like, there's if you are a certain kind of person, you could look at just, like, the way that, like, nobody's really in control of anything, and stuff's crazy, and, like, and that could instill absolute terror and freeze you, but some other people would look at that and be like, oh, there's no plan here, got it,
so I'm gonna do the best I can with what I got,
and you find that empowering. I feel like I'm like that. I enjoy the idea that like, oh, this is all nonsense,
right
know? And you just sort of create your little
it'll
ball of order,
you, or it
freeze you, or freeze
you. It'll freeze you or freeze you. Yeah. Yeah, nihilism is...
I wouldn't call it nihilism. I would
came up in the book, though.
I would call it more like absurdism, which I think is actually what they do in the book. I think they talk about that. I mean, because I would say that nihilism is that nothing matters, and absurdism is that there's like, not that it doesn't matter, but like that there's no order to it. And being able to recognize that lack of order, and that you are the agent of order, that we are all the agents of order. I mean, the universe is full of entropy, right? Things are spinning out of control, but like sometimes all this nonsense clumps together into stars and people and different things like that, and life is, in a way, something that is ordering all this chaos for just a little while. And that's okay. Whatever. That's all I got. I'm out. Whoa. I will take a look at that. I have never heard of that, but I will take a look. That is very funny. Excuse me. Yeah.
Catchy title.
Very catchy title. Brandon Sanderson has so much stuff that I've honestly never heard of. He even has like a sci-fi series that I don't think is very good, but I've honestly never looked into it. But we'll take a look. All right, let's wrap this up. We thank everybody for being here today and for reading this book with us. We had a blast. We will not see you next week, but I will do my best to get a book picked out today so we can go ahead and start reading, put out a regular syllabus, and all that kind of stuff. So don't be sorry for the caps. It was appropriate. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye. Happy reading.
Sorry.
Oh.